Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of Hamilton City Council.
Mayor, we're on the record, but I need to get the microphones.
Oh, okay.
And we're good.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the November 4th, 2020 regular meeting of Hamilton City Council. We're here in the City Council chambers at 345 High Street in Hamilton. Let's do a roll call, please.
Pullman.
Present.
Fear.
Present.
Vaughn.
Present.
Ryan.
Here.
Nab.
Present.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Present. We'll start off with an offering of prayer. Councilmember Michael Ryan, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able.
Lord, please continue to guide our city. Please continue to guide our administration and city council with the decisions that we make that will better our community. Please continue to protect our police officers, our firefighters, and other first responders, and keep them out of harm's way. Lord, please continue to unite our communities, our cities, and especially our country. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We now go to special presentations. As we've been doing every council meeting, we start off with the coronavirus COVID-19 presentation by Health Commissioner Kay Farrar. Kay?
Good evening, Mayor,
evening.
members of council, citizens of Hamilton. I'd like to give you an update from last week on what's been going on with COVID-19. This is countywide data for the most part. So there has been a 20% increase in cases reported over the last 2 weeks. We are at a 7% positivity rate. This is very high. Previously, we were running about 4 to 5%. So I know there's more testing, but there's also more positivity. So we're getting kind of hit at both ends of that. At this current rate, our doubling time is 35 days. So that's a huge concern. There's been 49 hospitalizations over the last 2 weeks. There's been a 10% increase over the last 2 weeks, so that's a significant increase as well.
You have an issue there?
Yep. There are no employment classes that are more susceptible. So what that means is no employee is at greater risk because they interact with the customers than just being in an office setting. So that it signals that we're at community spread, and we were officially there. We have received approximately 30 cases a day over the last week. Along with that, we isolate the case, and then we are still quarantining the individuals that were exposed. And I'd like to reiterate what an exposure is. So an exposure equals 15 minutes or more of time within 6 feet of the person who is shedding virus, with or without masks, because the mask is a protective device, but it isn't a full face shield. You know, we don't wear what the doctors wear in the hospital. So it is still best to keep distance from people. So stand back. You know, we all love to be with each other. I'm not saying we can't, but we just have to kind of step back just a little bit. And it kind of, you know, it falls just being courteous of that distance. A lot of people don't like you to be 3 feet from them in the first place. So just kind of hang back more like 6 feet. Families are the most trackable transmission in the city. So definitely we're still seeing when one member of the family is positive, it's almost true to fold that the entire household becomes positive. It may have started with one individual, but by the end of it, even with us trying to quarantine and separate the family members, you know, somebody living upstairs, somebody living downstairs, it almost inevitably goes through the whole household. So it really does highlight how easily it is transmitted, particularly when you're sharing air and breathing space with people. In the city, we're currently at 1,342 cases. The county as a whole has 9,962. City of Hamilton still has the 25 deaths that I told you about last week, so we haven't had any additional deaths this last week, so that's good. The county as a whole has had 134 deaths. So this is the dashboard that I talked to you guys about, and again, you can highlight, you can see Butler County is highlighted, so it helps us, anyone can do this, you can go to the website and look at it on a regular basis, but it does show you, a plot of the cases, and we're right up there higher than we've been in the past. The last spike was around Labor Day, which is what you would kind of expect. It's again when we gather together, kind of let our guards down. Everybody has group gatherings and that kind of thing. Hospitalizations, we're definitely seeing spikes. Now, you have to realize that sometimes that most recent data is slow to get in there, and it's because we're getting slow to get it in there, because that's the only way the state knows about it, right, is if the local public health department puts it in. So, we're doing our best to keep up, but when you're getting 30 new cases a day, it's really hard to keep up and to really keep them abreast. But you can kind of see on November the 1st, that was a huge spike, so that's a concern. Again, the death data is there. There's 134 deaths in the county. So presumed recovered 7,711. And again, that data may be off slightly too. In the beginning, I will say we were doing a much better job of getting people called and making sure that they had fully recovered and they were feeling well. I do it as best I can, but it's kind of piecemeal. Key indicators. Now this is state data now, so you're looking at the trends, and I'm sure you've seen in the news that unfortunately Ohio has had the 2 highest days back to back. We're crossing 4,000. We don't want to go that direction. For deaths, we also are spiking. For hospitalizations, we've had a little reprieve, but again, some of that data lags because they're dependent upon us getting the information into them. And ICU admissions, those are the ones that are holding a little bit better, so that's optimistic. Again, when I call people, there are some sick people out there, but we're managing it much better. I think I have much more good information for them on what to do if they are positive and how they can manage it at home. We're learning that ventilators aren't always the answer. We've kind of learned that from the past. And we're learning some good preventions from getting pneumonia, which is what usually lands someone in the ICU. Pop-up testing update. So tomorrow we have a scheduled meeting with the Ohio Department of Health, the National Guard, and there's some others on the call. It's basically their strike team that the governor has put together. So we have a call tomorrow at 10. I'll have much more information then. I've been busy doing some of the logistics of getting ready for the testing, securing tents, heaters, a site. I can't tell you the site yet because I don't have a positive that they're okay with us doing it there, but I have 2 sites that we're down to that I think both will work equally well, but I'm waiting for a final from the higher ups that's okay with them. It'll be a drive-through site. It will most probably be the week of November the 16th, and I requested that just because 2 reasons. Number one, I'm on vacation next week, and I don't want to put the rest of the health department through it without me being there as a leader, because we're going to be an integral part of getting people registered and being at the site to get things kicked off. But also, I think if we do testing this week, I think there will be enough time to get the result back, number one. And number two, I'm hoping that some people that get tested will know before Thanksgiving that maybe I shouldn't go to grandma's house for Thanksgiving. I can have Thanksgiving with other people, but maybe not with grandma this year. So again, I see a benefit to doing it that week. And there'll be more details to follow, and trust me, you guys will be the first to know. I'll get it out as soon as we talk tomorrow and I have confirmation of a site. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Yeah. Kay, so who should get tested? When you have these tests, just who?
I think anyone that is concerned in any way. The pop-up tests are good because you don't have to have symptoms, you don't have to have a doctor's order, there's not a fee associated with it. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to get tested. I certainly would want to invite anyone that is planning to have some kind of gathering for Thanksgiving where maybe there is a fragile person that's going to be participating in that Thanksgiving meal. I think it's a great time to go ahead and get yourself tested to know whether that should occur, or maybe I should stay home this year because I love you enough to stay home, that kind of thing. But I think that there's a plethora of reasons. I think, people who are curious about it and they just want to know, definitely if you have symptoms, you should get tested. At this point in time, there's enough tests out there that there's no excuse if you really want to be tested and you're exhibiting symptoms, mild or otherwise, that I can, even if you just call me, I can help guide you to where you can go get a test. There may be a fee associated with it because, again, urgent care, CVS, most of those sites are going to charge you for a patient fee. They're doing an exam, however light or whatever that is, but they do have a fee associated with it. And I've heard things like $85, and if you have insurance, it's covered. But if you don't, that's a challenge. So definitely this pop-up site is an opportunity for people that maybe don't have insurance, or again, if you're planning a Thanksgiving gathering of some kind and you're concerned, I think it's a great time to get tested.
I agree, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
Kay, if you will, what's the turnaround time on results at a rapid or at a drive-through? And then how will you notify people who have been tested of those results?
So more details to follow when I hear from tomorrow, but I have asked all those questions up front. I wanted to make sure that we had electronic capabilities, which we do. The National Guard has now, all I have to bring is the portable internet, which I've secured to through the EMA. I've also asked Fort, they have one. We can borrow all three of those so that we will have opportunity to do everything electronically. The turnover time, the National Guard actually drives it to the lab, and I've heard the turnover time is about 48 hours.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Kay, how long are results good for? In other words, can you have it and it be negative and then 2 weeks later have to test it again if you've been around new people that?
A negative test doesn't ever stop you from needing to be tested again if you develop symptoms. So a negative doesn't help you. A positive test, currently the way the state and the CDC and even our nursing homes around here are doing it, once their workers test positive, they don't retest them for 90 days. I've already told you, unfortunately, we are seeing reoccurrences of this beast. I wish that weren't true. But, I'd say if you're positive, you don't need to get retested for 90 days. You should continue to conduct yourself with the utmost caution and take precautions, stay back, do all the things that we're still doing, but you really wouldn't need to be tested again for 90 days.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that have a positive test and they want to see a negative test. You're no longer infectious. On a healthy individual, your body is the filter, if you think of it that way. So in 10 days, a healthy body breaks down the virus so that it's no longer infectious, and that's the important piece. With someone who's immunocompromised, so it can be, my dad was a rheumatoid arthritis patient, so he was on a medication that would have made him immunocompromised. So he would have taken 20 days to have his body act as a filter, break it down to the point where he was no longer infectious. That's part of the reason why it's such a heavy load when we call people, because we have to ask them all those questions and make sure that we're putting them in isolation long enough so that we don't have infectious people out and about.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kay, for answering all of them, and thanks for the pop-up testing location. Okay, we now go to audience of citizens. And citizens are encouraged, if they want an issue addressed, to email those questions to the city clerk. City clerk may read comments into the record during the appropriate meeting. If comments are submitted far enough in advance, the city clerk can research the issue and have the response read into the record. I believe Jim Lodeman signed the public speaking book, and I think Tom Vanderhorst talked to him about a particular pothole location. So we're going to consider that one addressed. And we thank Jim for bringing that issue to our attention. I believe there's another one that you got, or an email that you got, Mr. City Clerk, that you want to, one read one later, and the other one address sometime in your future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So we have received 2 emails. One will be read into the record, given at its appropriate time, given about one of the items tonight.
Yes.
The other letter I received was a petition from some residents who were concerned about an aggressive dog in their neighborhood. This was a letter expressing their concerns for their safety and their family's safety. They described some recent incidents with this aggressive dog as well, and how they've contacted the dog warden and the Hamilton Police Department about these issues. So before I have a full response for council, I would like to consult with the health department as well as the Butler County dog warden before we have an official response for this.
We're going to research the one and read the one, I believe, at agenda item number 7. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. That takes care of audience of citizens. We now go to the consent agenda, which is all staff reports and caucus reports. We have no committee of the whole this evening due to our safe COVID approach, keeping people out of the room that we can keep out of the room. We now go to a motion to accept the consent agenda. Is there a motion that someone wants to read into the record that we can vote on?
So moved.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds like there's a motion that council receive the reports of the consent agenda, concur in the recommendations. Motion made by Councilmember Brown, seconded by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. We now go to council actions pertaining to legislative items. And I'll set the motion that precedes that section.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Nab.
I move that a note be made upon the minutes that each member of council was furnished a printed copy of each item of legislation prior to its being considered at this meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Nab, seconded by Councilmember Fear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. We now go into pending legislation. Agenda item number 3, which is the first reading of an ordinance involving the manager of hydroelectric operations and customer service administration.
An ordinance amending and supplementing Schedule A of the city's classification and compensation plan as set forth in emergency ordinance number EOR 2020-1-6 adopted January 15th, 2020 to reassign the pay ranges for the manager of the hydroelectric operations and customer service administrator positions and establish the position of environmental health and safety specialist, second reading.
That's actually a second reading of that ordinance? Okay. So there's been a motion, well, there will be a motion here. Is there a motion that we accept the ordinance?
Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Brown, seconded by Vice Mayor Pullman. Is that correct? Any discussion about this particular ordinance, which was a second reading? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman?
Yes.
Fear?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Nab?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Moeller?
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 4, second reading of an ordinance involving supplemental appropriations.
An ordinance making supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Hamilton during the fiscal year ending in December 31st, 2020, second reading.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn.
I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, seconded by Councilmember Fear. Questions or comments about this ordinance? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman?
Yes.
Fear?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Nab?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Moeller?
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 5, second reading of an ordinance involving the conveyance of real property.
An ordinance approving the conveyance of certain real property located within the City of Hamilton, Ohio's urban renewal area to Stacy Dion Smith and Lakeisha Tamika Givens Smith, 1211 Ludlow Street, second reading.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Pullman.
I'd like to make a motion that the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Brown. Any discussion about this particular real property, which I believe is located at 1211 Ludlow? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Ordinance adopted, 7-0.
Now go to new legislation. First reading of an ordinance, emergency ordinance, excuse me, regarding the sale of property to Sellers Real Estate LLC.
An emergency ordinance authorizing and directing the sale of property to Sellers Real Estate LLC relative to certain real property located within parcel number P 646200600073. First reading.
Thank you. We go to agenda item number 7, which is a first reading of an emergency ordinance involving licensees for certain food establishments and food service operations.
An emergency ordinance amending subparagraphs A through G and I of section 1733.01 of the codified ordinance of the City of Hamilton, Ohio, relative to license fees in certain food establishments and food service operations, and repealing said existing subparagraphs. First reading. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to also read an email I received pertaining to this legislation.
Please go ahead and read it.
Dear City Council members, this email is dated on November 3rd, 2020. Due to the impact of Corona minimizing business sales and causing the complete shutdown of all tattoo shops, we feel that raising our license fee $150 this year will continue to put more strain on our small businesses. After being completely shut down for 8 weeks, we were finally able to open, and we were not permitted to do any piercings on the face, along with limiting the amount of tattoos we were able to complete due to social distancing. Piercings are over half of our business revenue. When the virus began, it was during income tax season. Income tax season generates over 45% of our sales for the year. Our businesses have lost so much due to the corona, and it is unfair to raise our fees during this time of crisis. Perhaps visiting this raise next year would be better suited to everyone in our times during these times in need. I have owned and operated my business in Hamilton for 20 plus years. This year by far being the worst, our business has not been able to recover from the general loss of revenue. Myself and other tattoo businesses hope that you will take all of this into consideration before raising our fees. Thank you for your consideration. Leah Irvin, Tattoos and Piercing by A Part of You. And that's a business that's located on 184 South Fair Street. So.
Okay. I encourage all of council to again read that ordinance, and we'll be voting on that November the 11th. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir. And I've made the health department aware of this as well. So I think we'll be able to work with this concerned citizen as well regarding this legislation.
So like I said, encourage council to read the ordinance again and contact Kate Farrar if there's any kind of questions about the license fees and how they're generated and how the increases are looked at. Okay?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
When this does come up for discussion at our next meeting, and I see it goes into effect December the 1st, if we were to decide to move it back like 6 months, is that something we can do on the record then? Or should we be contacting someone in the meantime since it's next week?
Okay with everybody, since that's actually our last agenda item. Kate, can you address now the timeline on this, the importance of the timeline, and anything else you may want to add?
So the cost methodology for fee setting for the health department is under the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay.
And it's based upon the year prior to. So this is all based upon 2019 costs to the health department. So we're always a year behind. It's unfortunate, but that's how it rolls. So once you do the cost methodology, you are able to set fees for exactly what you put into the program. So in other words, we're not allowed to make money off of any of our programs. It always has to be equal to the time that we spent, the money that we spent into each program. It is, however, everyone's privy to go below, but they are set for a year at a time. So it would be setting the fees for 2021 at a lower rate, whereas in 2019, we already lost
Okay.
half. We spent twice as much in the tattoo, body piercing area than what we made.
Thank you for explaining. I had no idea, so I'm glad to hear that, or to know that. Thank you.
You say the methodology, cost methodology formula is actually in the revised code, or is it, I think it's an administrative code?
The cost methodology for food is provided by the Ohio Department of Health. It's literally a spreadsheet where you plug numbers in.
Okay.
And it just is simply putting in how much each sanitarian makes, how many hours they worked in each individual area, and then it comes up and it tells you what you can charge. And
Okay.
it says this is the maximum that can be charged. That's food. So there is no paperwork from the Ohio Department of Health for pools or for tattoo, body piercing places. So what we do is figure up a cost per hour for each sanitarian, and then it's, again, how many hours did they work of their entire work schedule. That amount of the money is put into what they charged to, for instance, tattoos. And then there's how many tattoo did we issue, how much did we take in for revenue, and what was the deficit?
Okay. Thank you.
Or excess. We're not allowed to have excess. If we have excess, we take a penalty and we have to go below.
Okay. Thank you, Kay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Pullman?
Kay, on this letter I'm reading this, did their fee go up 150 or
Yeah.
it went up 150?
It will be. The proposed fee that I'm proposing is to go from, it costs currently $200
Uh-huh,
for the whole year,
okay.
and I'm proposing $350 for the full year
Okay.
for the fee. Because again, we almost lost half. It was nearly half. I think, in fact, it may have been an entire half, and I didn't raise it. I just went to 300 and went there.
Council has further questions. Can we send you an email?
You can send me an email, and I'm also going to have, I'm off next week, but I'm going to have Cami Mitrione, who's one of the sanitarians, come here, and she'll be here available to answer any questions.
On November the 11th. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kay about this particular agenda item? Thank you for staying and for answering those questions. Unless I am mistaken, that takes care of all the agenda items. So we've got the audience of the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, just besides a reminder that we do have a Finance Committee meeting this Friday morning at 8 a.m., I have nothing else to report, but I would like an executive session when it comes to that point.
We'll get there in just a second.
Thank you.
Audience of city council, anything anybody wants to bring to each other's attention right now?
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Pullman?
Pretty simple, though. I just had a lot of, it's nice to hear a lot of compliments, and I had a good experience myself, and hats off to the Butler County Board of Elections, how well they handled everything. I just heard tons of good comments from it. Maybe the rest of the country could benefit from their organization up there. Was very good. It's just, I mean, I don't know how many you saw, but I saw some emails, good comments, and even out on the Facebook, it was nice to see good comments out there. So, great job. That's really all I want to say on that.
Anyone else? I know Carla probably saw some voters yesterday. I saw about 800 of them where I was at working. And I want to thank the voters because they were very courteous, patient. It was a different type of system, and but I think it worked out really well. And the system does actually work. You've got especially good people who are administering that system. So I tell people to be safe, be smart about the wearing of masks as well, being socially distant. I want to thank TV Hamilton for being the way we get this council meeting and the information out to our citizens. Anybody else on council want to say anything right now?
Thank you.
Okay, now go to executive session. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like council to go to the executive session for two different purposes. The first is to consider confidential information related to the marketing plans or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance. And the second one is to consider the appointment of a public employee or official.
Okay. We're going to do the special vote for, is there a motion that There's a finding the executive session is necessary to protect the interests of the applicant or the possible investment or expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with an economic development project.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Nab, seconded by Councilmember Brown. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Thank you. Now is there a motion we go into executive session for those two stated purposes by the city manager?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Pullman, seconded by Councilmember Fear. A roll call vote on that motion, please.
Pullman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted, 7-0.
Okay, we're going to executive session at 6:32. We'll come out of executive session just to adjourn the regular meeting. That takes care of our public business. And thanks all for being here. We're executive session.